How's it going, everybody? This is Javier from Not for Normies, and today we're going to be going over my first impressions of Rise of the Ronin. I'm currently 8 hours into this behemoth of a game, and to be quite frank, apart from a little bit of jank, if you're a Team Ninja fan or a Koei Tecmo fan, I don't think you're going to have any problems with this game. I think you're going to have a blast playing this Souls-like game. So, without further delay, let's jump right into it. So the main story of this game is basically you are a Ronin that has basically abandoned their clan, and your whole situation is that you're trying to find the person who assassinated your partner, and you move away from your clan and you're out to go on this vendetta streak, finding out who assassinated your partner and to achieve your vengeance, if I may. As far as the story goes, that's pretty much all I really need to go on a full-on spree, going off attacking enemies and basically saving all of Japan from the tyranny that's going on in, I guess, feudal Japan. I'm assuming. I'm not the greatest when it comes to being a Japanese history buff, but there's a bunch of war going on and that's your basic job. So it's not particularly deep, but when it comes to a Souls-like game, are you really looking for something that's all that deep? I mean, for me, not so much. I find the more historic aspects of it to be more forgiving and to be a little bit more exciting. But for the most part, the story gets me by, and it's okay. I'm not really looking for anything crazy, to be honest. But as far as any Souls-like, there are some positives about this game and some negatives about this game. And let's run through a couple of the positives and then let's jump into the negative aspects that I want to touch up on. So one of the positive aspects that I found about this game is the bond system that is going on in this game. So as you play through the game, you're going to meet particular NPCs throughout your journey, and you get to create bonds with these characters, and these characters will give you particular things as you journey through Japan. And I found it to be, whether they be fighting or they give you technology that helps you out in battle, it's tons of fun. And it's a different way of presenting different mechanics into a game without feeling so forced. And for myself, I found it to be quite exciting to meet all the different NPCs and to learn their stories, and for them to, as your bond progresses, to basically get new things from them or to enhance their battling when they help you out on missions. So for me, I found that to be a lot of fun. Another thing that's really big that I'm big on are skill trees. This skill tree does not play, though I would say it's a little bit dumbed down from a game. Like if you're more used to Elden Ring, I would say this skill tree is very dumbed down. It's not as immense as Elden Ring, but it does give you enough variety that you feel like every time you go back to a bonfire, you are leveling up, you're getting stronger, you're winning in battle more frequently, even against people that are at your level or even a little higher than your level. I'm only at level 10 at the moment, so I mean, I've only been playing for a little while now, so but these skill trees are really in-depth, at least in my book. They're in-depth enough for me that I continuously want to progress and want to keep playing and battling these enemies to getting stronger, which goes into my next point, the combat. The combat in this game is phenomenal. There are a couple of moments where it can get slightly jank, but for the most part, the combat of this game is fantastic. That means the weapons that are in this game are super top-notch. There are tons of different weapons, both ranged and hand-to-hand combat weapons that you get to use, ranging from pistols and rifles to bow and arrows, katanas, you name it, they have it. It's so massive. It can seem kind of overbearing as you're using everything to kind of go with your playstyle, but in my opinion, when it comes to a Souls-like, I think it's imperative that you have different variety so that you can really play the way that you want to play. Each different weapon kind of gives you an opportunity to go into a battle sequence a little different, whether to be more stealth or to be more guns blazing. Let's push forward headlong and really go after these guys, which, you know, I kind of do a little bit of both here and again. Another big aspect is, at least for me, that I found to be a positive was the souls aspect of Rise of the Ronin, which in this case, they're not souls, It's called karma, and karma gets accumulated as you're progressing through the game, as you're defeating enemies, as you're going through missions. You're accumulating karma, and as any good Souls-like, when you get defeated in battle, you lose that karma that you've accumulated, and that person who ends up killing you has what they call a vendetta against you. And the only way that you're able to receive those souls back is that you have to defeat them in battle, which some people would say that it's a little annoying that you would go into a battle, be like, oh, there's a person that's a lot stronger than me, I'm just gonna go and run, grab my souls and head out. Like I'm getting right out of there. But for me, I find it to be more rewarding when you have to go into battle and fight this person in order to get better at the game and the gameplay mechanics. Though I would say that there are some moments where you are very underleveled and the opponent is extremely overleveled, and you would have to find a way to assassinate them, but in a way that like you take out a good chunk and that vendetta begins, and you can basically run out of battle just in case, you know, oh man, I'm way too underleveled, I can't get into this fight, I'm going to grab my souls and run out of there. Which has happened to me once during this game. There was a person that was huge and gigantic, and I could not beat them at the level I was at, and I had to basically go in real quick and then run right out of there, grab my karma and run out, because I was about to lose them all. Though I would say that's another really big thing when it comes to the karma is that even if you lost all the karma that you gained, it's not really losing, like you don't really lose that much. The stakes are not as high as if you were playing a traditional Souls-like game where when you lose it, you lose all of it and you feel like you've been hit in the gut by somebody and it's devastating and you have to like step away from the game. There are plenty of times where I've had that happen to me where I lose all of my souls and I'm like, I gotta step back, I gotta walk away, because it's exhausting and you feel fully defeated and you have to come back, like you go eat some food and then come back and then you go back into playing. No, this game doesn't kind of do that. It's more forgiving in that aspect, which is, in my opinion, a positive thing. Now let's get into the negative aspects of the game. One of the negative things that is very prominent in this game is the fact that you have to really understand combat in this game, and there's a big learning curve when you're going into combat. It's particularly very difficult. Like it took me a while to really get a grasp on certain patterns that people were fighting with me against, and as you go into different areas, their fighting stances are different. You have to change the stances that you're using to combat those people, and when you're at lower levels, this doesn't matter as much, but I assume that if you go into higher difficulty levels, you are going to have to utilize every advantage to the best of your ability in order to get an upper hand on these enemies that you're facing. And that learning curve gets greater as you progress through the game. So for me, it really took a while to get a handle on the combat and to really get better at it, especially since the button placement of the way that you're fighting is kind of different than what I'm more accustomed to. So that in and of itself was a little bit of a learning curve. So I kind of had to retrain my brain to kind of fight in these games to really get the most out of it. But once I kind of got a handle on it, it was a lot easier for me. And that's one thing that may be difficult for some players, is that the learning curve on it is quite steep. But once you get over that hump, you're really going to enjoy the game for what it is. Another big negative that I have about this game is the voice acting of this game. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I'm not one who's a voice actor. I can't really tell you whether or not, you know, it's like, oh, they put in such like a tremendous amount of hours, so you know it's objectively going to be good. I speak for most players when I tell you that the voice acting in this game is not the greatest, and I mean that with the utmost honesty and the utmost respect for these guys, but it's not that great. I'm not gonna front on you. The story in and of itself and what they're saying, I understand the gravity of it, but it's not like, it doesn't give me that impact that some other games do, which is why I feel like most Souls-likes have an unfair advantage over other games, because you could just outright leave dialogue altogether, and just like, if the core gameplay of it is good, then it doesn't really matter. Who cares whether or not the voice acting is good or not, so long as the core gameplay is solid. And that's the thing, the core gameplay is solid, but I can't tell you that the voice acting is good, because in my opinion, it really isn't good at all. I think it's pretty abysmal. But if it were just turned up a little bit more, I would probably say that this game is probably like an 8 or a 9. I know IGN gave it like a 7 out of 10, but I think if the voice acting were a little better, I think it would be a solid 8 or 9 out of 10 as far as Souls-likes are involved. And the final thing that's a little bit more of a side note in terms of the negatives is that the NPCs in this game seem to be like copy and pasted throughout the game. Like they really are just like carbon copies of each other, and I find that happening as I'm playing different people's missions, that certain NPCs, they look the exact same, and like you're talking to them and it's like, man, didn't I just end you like last mission? Like you were talking to me here and now you're here in a completely different situation. It's like there's no way that you're the same person. So in terms of variety of NPCs, there's really not that much. Now, the NPCs that you have different bonds with, that's different. Now that's an A+. I would say that's a great thing. But in terms of NPCs in the overworld and the world around you as you're traveling from place to place, NPCs, they go about their business and they do different things, but I would say in terms of variety of NPCs, they don't really stretch the boundaries all that much. They really kind of stick to certain people and then, you know, just let them be. Does it ruin my experience? Not really, but I wish I could have seen a little bit more variety in terms of the NPC placements and who you're battling against. Definitely would help if enemy variety was a little bit more expanded, so you would have to change up your play style depending on them a little bit more often to kind of get you accustomed to changing play styles as you're going throughout the game, instead of having them kind of hold your hand and being like, okay, so even though these guys may have a different playstyle or a different stance and it's not good against the stance that you're currently at because you're over leveled, well then we're just going to give you the upper hand in this battle. So in terms of my closing thoughts, I find that Rise of the Ronin, it's a fun game. Like it's a good, solid game. Is there a bit of jank to it? Yes. Is the voice acting not that great? Yes. But the bones of the game is a lot of fun. At least for me, the most important things. Combat, the bond system is a lot of fun. The fact that you really get to play the way you want to play and get to use different types of weapons. You get to go into combat the way that you want to do it. The variety and the technology that you're able to use to help you engage in combat is tremendously different than other Souls-likes that I've played. So I think, in my opinion, the game in and of itself is a good experience. Would I consider it great? Not particularly. I wouldn't say it's great, but I would think for anybody who is a Koei Tecmo fan, who's a Team Ninja fan, who's a fan of Souls-likes, I would say give this game a shot. Even though you may not play it to the very end, I would consider, hey, if this game is on sale, why don't you give this game a shot? Because at least in my opinion, it's definitely worth playing. And that's it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want to check out our latest podcast, you can check it out over here. And if you like the video, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe over here if you want to check out more videos like this in the future. And you can let us know what videos you want to watch as we continue moving forward. So have a great rest of your week. Play some video games. And as always, don't be a normie. Have a good one, guys. Later.